Imagine this. You're young, in the prime of your life, and one morning you wake up to realize your freedom has been stolen. In your own home, in your own country, you were once a free individual, yet suddenly you're in chains, sold as a slave in foreign lands. Now imagine this. In that foreign land, not only do you survive, you rise. For more than 30 years, you become the most powerful woman in one of the greatest empires in history. How? This isn't a Netflix drama. This is real. And the heroine of this story is the extraordinary woman history remembers as Nurbanu Sultan. She was born in the dazzling city of the Renaissance, Venice. Her name was Cecilia Venier Baffo, a daughter of a noble family, educated, beautiful, free. But fate had other plans: a pirate raid, capture, chains. Cecilia left her name behind and stepped into the glittering yet dangerous world of the Ottoman palace. But she didn't just adapt, she mastered it. She turned the palace's strict rules, endless intrigues, and ruthless rivalries to her advantage. With intelligence, patience, and strategy, she became the de facto ruler of the Ottoman Empire, one of the most powerful states of its time. Today we call her Nurbanu Sultan, and her story reminds us the greatest power moves in history often come from the most unexpected places. In this video, we'll uncover how a young Venetian girl became the shadow empress of the Ottoman world. By the end, you'll see that resilience, intellect, and strategy can lift a person from the depths of despair to the very heights of power. Are you ready to discover one of history's greatest survivors? From slavery to sovereignty, this is her incredible journey. Let's begin. Renaissance Venice, the shining star of Europe. Narrow canals, the graceful sway of gondolas, magnificent palaces. In this enchanted city, Cecilia was born into the noble Venier Baffo family. She lived a privileged childhood, the best tutors, a life filled with music, literature, art. Venice, with its merchants and artists from across Europe, was both her school and her playground, but no one could have predicted how quickly that joy would shatter. One day, the calm waters of the Adriatic turned dark. Black sails appeared on the horizon. Ottoman corsairs had come. Screams, chaos, bells ringing across the city. Cecilia hoped the walls of her home would protect her, but fate was already written. Captured, chained, taken from everything she knew. Her mind raced. Will I ever see my mother again? Will I ever return home? Where are they taking me? The answer, not freedom, but the Ottoman palace, Istanbul, the beating heart of the 16th century, a city of power, trade, and wonder. Behind its mighty walls, the Topkapi Palace loomed, not just a royal residence, but one of the most mysterious and influential places in the world. Here, Cecilia, now a slave, would walk through its gates. From the deck of a small boat, she gazed at the skyline, the vast dome of Hagia Sophia, the towering walls of Topkapi. Fear and curiosity tangled in her chest. The harem. In European imagination, it was a place of exotic whispers. In truth, it was far more complex. A school, a battlefield, a place where women could shape the course of empire. And here, Cecilia became someone new. She was given a name that would mark her destiny: Nurbanu, light of the universe. The harem was filled with rivals, women from the Caucasus, the Balkans, Anatolia, each dreaming of the Sultan's favor. But Nurbanu was different. She knew survival was not about beauty alone. It was about intellect, patience, and strategy. While others filled their nights with music and dance, Nurbanu chose another path. She studied Ottoman Turkish. She attended lessons in the Quran. She memorized palace customs and protocols, and with her knowledge of Latin and Italian, she built a bridge between worlds. Mistakes in the harem meant exile or death, but Nurbanu made none. Day by day she rose higher, and then fate opened its grandest door. She caught the eye of Prince Selim, but this would not be just a romance. No, Nurbanu would not be his lover alone. She would become his greatest ally. Behind the palace walls, destiny brought them face to face. The ambitious, sharp-witted Nurbanu and one of the most controversial princes of the Ottoman dynasty, Selim. Selim, the son of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, but sadly, not the favorite. The soldiers whispered that he lacked the spirit of a warrior. Statesmen mocked his love for wine and pleasure. Among his brothers, he was seen as the weakest contender for the throne. But Nurbanu saw something different. Behind Selim's flaws, she spotted an opportunity. Because there was one thing everyone else overlooked. Selim needed something, a guide, a mentor, an ally, and Nurbanu stepped into that role. While other women tried to seduce him, Nurbanu chose a different path. She recited poetry, spoke of Venetian politics, debated Ottoman history. In the quiet glow of the oil lamps, their conversations weren't only about love, they were about strategy. Nurbanu became more than a lover. She was a diplomat, building bridges between Venice and the Ottoman court. She was a counselor, warning Selim of rival princes' schemes. She was a psychological anchor, restoring his confidence when the world doubted him. But her greatest strategy? Motherhood. She gave Selim a son, Murad. In the Ottoman world, the mother of a prince automatically rose in rank. But to be the mother of the heir? That meant owning the future of the empire. From that moment on, everyone in the palace knew Nurbanu hadn't just captured Selim's heart, she had secured his destiny. And soon, that destiny led straight to the throne. The empire lost its greatest ruler, Suleiman the Magnificent. The throne stood empty, and though many dismissed Selim as weak, one person in the palace understood how to turn that weakness into power: Nurbanu. With Selim's coronation, Nurbanu became Haseki Sultan, the Sultan's chief consort, but she was no ornament standing at his side. The years she had spent navigating palace intrigues had forged her into a political mastermind. She carried out secret correspondence with Venice, influencing European diplomacy. She controlled finances and trade, managing the palace economy. She built an intelligence network, knowing every plot before it reached the Sultan's ears. Selim sat on the throne, but many decisions were made in Nurbanu's chambers. She was now the empire's shadow empress. Of course, this power came at a price. Janissaries, viziers, religious leaders, many resented her influence. But Nurbanu knew how to play the game. She funded the army, winning soldiers' loyalty. She sponsored religious projects, securing respect from clerics. And she used her intelligence network to expose and dismantle rivals. Piece by piece, the Venetian girl who once wore chains became the second most powerful figure in the Ottoman Empire. A turning point. Sultan Selim II died. For most women of the harem, the death of a sultan meant exile, or worse. But for Nurbanu, it was the beginning of an even greater rise. Her son, Murad III, ascended the throne, and Nurbanu became Valid Sultan, the Sultan's mother. But this title was no mere honorific. Behind the curtains of Topkapi Palace, she was effectively co-ruler of the empire. No decision was made without her advice. Diplomats waited for her approval before striking deals. Through her intelligence network, She kept her finger on the empire's pulse. Her power was invisible, yet absolute. She sat in council meetings from behind the lattice, her words delivered discreetly to the Sultan. She managed the empire's wealth with an iron grip. European envoys courted her directly, shaping their negotiations around her guidance. But as with all power, enemies emerged. Janissaries, viziers, rival factions, they all fought to weaken her. Yet Nurbanu, with patience and cunning, outmaneuvered them. By now, one truth was undeniable. In the Ottoman Empire, the strength of the Sultan was measured by the strategy of the woman beside him. Nurbanu's rise marked the dawn of a new era in Ottoman history, the Sultanate of women, and she was its trailblazer. She had become not just the mother of a sultan, but the hidden architect of an empire. And through it all, she never forgot where she came from. Venice. She kept up secret correspondence with her homeland. She influenced peace and trade treaties behind the scenes, and European ambassadors understood one rule. Before you negotiate with the Ottoman Sultan, you must first win the approval of Nurbanu Sultan. This was back-channel diplomacy, 400 years before the term even existed. She controlled the palace's revenues. She oversaw trade routes, managed strategic ports, and led high-stakes negotiations. She kept a watchful eye on imperial spending, strengthening the Ottoman economy, and her intelligence network reached into every corner of the palace. She knew of military movements before they happened. She uncovered the plans of viziers before they were spoken aloud. She tracked the schemes of her rivals, turning palace intrigue into her greatest weapon. But Nurbanu's influence stretched far beyond politics and economics. She commissioned mosques, schools, hospitals, and charitable foundations. Through these works, she won the love of the people, while quietly cementing her power. Nurbanu Sultan was invisible, yet unstoppable. Through diplomacy, she secured peace. Through economics, she fortified the empire. Through intelligence, she crushed her rivals. And through public works, she carved her legacy into stone. By now, everyone understood one thing. In the Ottoman Empire, true power did not rest on the throne. It rested in the hands of Nurbanu Sultan. But such power always breeds jealousy. The Janissaries, high-ranking viziers, and ambitious women of the harem all envied her. Yet Nurbanu, with unmatched foresight, anticipated every move. When the generals questioned her influence, she rewarded them with victories and resources. When the religious elite tried to undermine her, she silenced them with mosques and schools that bore her name. And when palace rivals schemed in the shadows, her intelligence network exposed and dismantled them. Nurbanu never flaunted her authority. She didn't need to. Her power was subtle, but absolute. No war, no treaty, no decision moved forward without her approval. Her patience and intellect created stability in a palace built on chaos. And so, with every step, she paved the way for what history would call the Sultanate of Women. But even the most brilliant players cannot escape fate. Istanbul, 1583. Night falls on Topkapı Palace. The corridors are silent, lit only by flickering candles casting shadows on stone walls. After decades of ruling from behind the curtain, Valide Sultan Nurbanu prepares to rest. That evening, as always, her servants brought her sweets and a drink. She smiled, weary but vigilant, as she had been her entire life inside the palace. But this night was different. Moments after sipping her drink, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Her body trembled, her breath grew shallow. The palace physicians rushed in, but they could not explain it, and soon whispers filled the palace. Was this vengeance carried out by her Venetian enemies? Was it the Genoese striking back from across the sea? Or had her rivals within the harem finally succeeded where so many had failed? By dawn, the empire's most powerful woman was gone. Official records called it a sudden death, but in hushed tones, the word passed from mouth to mouth: poison. With her death, an era ended, yet her legacy endured. Nurbanu had redefined what it meant to be Valid Sultan. She turned a ceremonial title into the most powerful position in the empire. She elevated the role of women in Ottoman politics. She blazed the trail for future leaders: Safiye Sultan, Kosem Sultan, Turhan Sultan. She pioneered back-channel diplomacy with Venice, preventing wars and securing trade. She built an economic and intelligence network that stabilized the empire for decades, and her mosques, schools, and hospitals stood as monuments to her influence. Think about it. A young girl, kidnapped by pirates, sold into a foreign palace as a slave, and who, for more than 30 years, ruled one of the greatest empires on earth. Her story proves one truth: where you begin does not define where you end. With intelligence, patience, strategy, and courage, even the harshest chains can be forged into a crown. Nurbanu Sultan's story is one of history's most overlooked tales of power. But let me ask you, could someone today rise from disaster to destiny as she did? Could tragedy be turned into triumph? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of history's hidden power players. Next week, we'll uncover the African queen who built a trade empire to rival Europe, the concubine in China who rose to become empress, and the Mongol princess who controlled the Silk Road. Because history's greatest power players are often the ones you never expected. And remember, the most dangerous players in history are the ones you never see coming.